Have you ever wondered why the moment you stop chasing, the world starts chasing you? Why silence suddenly speaks louder than words? It's almost as if detachment carries a mysterious power. Because when you no longer need someone, they begin to need you. Stay with me, because when you watch this till the end, you'll realize how stopping contact can save you, transform you, and completely change the course of your life. 1. The power of emotional absence. There's a strange unspoken power in absence. It's something the mind resists, but the soul deeply understands. When you pull your energy back, not to punish, not to manipulate, but because you finally remembered your worth, something profound begins to happen. Your silence becomes presence. Your absence becomes gravity. You stop speaking to be heard, and instead, you let your stillness do the talking. You see, emotional absence is not emptiness. It's the sacred pause between two heartbeats. The quiet recognition that not every connection deserves constant attention. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is step back and let the echo of your energy remind others what they've lost the moment they stopped valuing it. Because when you're always available, always explaining, always proving, your energy becomes ordinary, and nothing beautiful ever grows in the soil of ordinariness. Absence restores mystery. It brings contrast to connection. It allows the other to feel what life is like without your constant warmth. And only then can they truly recognize its value. It's not cruel to pull back. It's clarity. It's not rejection. It's reflection. You begin to realize that love doesn't mean losing yourself in the noise of another's approval. It means maintaining your rhythm even when the music changes. When you withdraw emotionally, you stop begging to be seen. Instead, you allow your silence to reveal what words could never say, that your energy is precious, that your presence is earned, not demanded. And men, whether they understand it consciously or not, feel this shift. They begin to sense something missing in their world, something once taken for granted. It's not the texts or the calls they miss. It's you, the warmth of your presence, the calm in your tone, the energy that once centered their chaos. Absence creates awareness. Awareness creates desire. There's a quiet grace in this understanding. You don't disappear to punish. You simply stop feeding what no longer feeds you. And in that silence, something inside you awakens, an awareness that you no longer need to chase, because what's meant for you will never require you to shrink to fit its comfort. Absence reveals truth. It shows you who reaches out and who only shows up when you're giving. It shows you who values you for your presence and who values you for your usefulness. And when you learn to observe rather than chase, your entire energy begins to shift from desperation to dignity. There's beauty in that transformation. You move from needing someone's attention to being the calm that others seek. You begin to understand that not every silence is a loss. Sometimes it's the beginning of self-respect. And once you learn that lesson deeply, you stop being afraid of distance. Because now you know, if your absence doesn't move them, your presence never mattered. 2. The magnetic law of withdrawal. There is an ancient rhythm that governs human connection, a pull and release, a dance between presence and absence. Every time you chase something that resists, it slips further away. But when you step back, it begins to turn toward you. It's not magic, it's energy. It's the law of attraction at its purest form. When you withdraw your emotional investment, you reclaim your power. You stop pouring from an empty cup. Stop feeding connections that don't reciprocate. Stop performing for validation. You begin to breathe again. And strangely, that very act of withdrawal, so often mistaken for indifference, is what makes your energy magnetic. Because the truth is, nothing captivates like confidence. Not loud confidence that needs attention, but quiet assurance, the kind that comes from someone who knows they have nothing to prove. When you stop chasing, your energy settles into balance. You no longer send waves of desperation into the universe. You radiate calm certainty, And people feel that they may not know why, but they're drawn toward it, like a lost ship seeking a lighthouse in the fog. This is the paradox of energy. The more you need, the less you receive. The moment you release, life flows back toward you. Why? Because you've aligned with truth instead of fear. You've stopped saying, I'll only be okay if they stay, and started living, I'll be okay regardless. That vibration, peace instead of panic, shifts everything. Men sense it instantly. They might not speak of it, but they feel it. They feel that your happiness is no longer dependent on their attention, and that independence, that freedom, becomes irresistible. Withdrawal doesn't mean erasing someone. It means you stop trying to force something that's no longer flowing. You stop throwing your heart at closed doors, hoping they'll open. Instead, you stand still and let what's meant for you find its own way home. The magnetic law of withdrawal teaches a sacred truth. The more you chase peace through others, the further peace moves. But the moment you become peace yourself, everything that belongs to peace gravitates toward you. It's not manipulation. It's alignment. You stop fighting the current and start floating with it. You trust that what drifts away is clearing the path for what's meant to arrive. And that trust, that stillness, gives you power beyond words, because real attraction doesn't come from trying to be wanted. It comes from not needing to be wanted to feel whole. And when a woman reaches that state, when she is enough within herself, she becomes the kind of presence that men remember long after she's gone. Her withdrawal becomes a mirror. It reflects to him the void she once filled. It reveals how much of his comfort depended on her consistency. And now, with her silence, he feels the weight of that absence. That's the magnetic law of withdrawal. When you pull your energy back, it doesn't disappear. It amplifies, it begins to echo in their mind, replaying moments of connection, of warmth, of presence. You become unforgettable, not because you tried harder, but because you stopped trying at all. 3. Silence speaks what words cannot. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when words lose their power. You've said everything you could. You've explained, pleaded, reasoned, and still the energy remains unbalanced. That's when you realize silence is your final language. Silence is not weakness, it's wisdom. It says, I no longer seek to convince you. I no longer need to prove my worth. It's the sacred turning point where noise ends and understanding begins. When you become silent, you shift from reaction to reflection. You no longer waste words trying to make someone see what they've already chosen to ignore. Instead, you let distance teach what your voice could not, and silence, oh, it speaks volumes. It tells a story of boundaries, of healing, of strength. It whispers, I'm still here but no longer available in the same way. And that subtle difference changes everything. Men feel silence differently than words. Words invite debate. Silence, however, invites realization. It unsettles, it provokes, it awakens. Because silence is not empty. It's full of everything you once said, every effort you once made, every emotion you once offered, now condensed into one powerful message. I've stopped trying. In that moment, your energy transforms. You're no longer reaching outward. You're returning inward. You're reclaiming all the fragments of yourself you scattered trying to be understood. And that reclamation is what makes your silence magnetic. Silence heals the heart by giving it space to breathe. It clears the emotional clutter. It allows you to hear your own thoughts without the noise of confusion. It's in the quiet that you realize you are never losing them, you are finding yourself. Silence also teaches discernment. Not everyone deserves access to your words, your explanations, your energy. Sometimes silence is the only response that preserves your dignity. And that's when you understand silence isn't empty, it's sacred. People often mistake silence for disinterest, but in truth, it's the loudest expression of boundaries. It says, I choose peace over participation. It says, I care, but I care for myself first. And here's the mystery. Silence often brings people back, not because you manipulated them, but because your absence forced them to listen to what your presence was already saying. Your silence becomes the echo of truth. It lingers, it stirs, it invites reflection. In silence, you discover your own rhythm again. You begin to speak to yourself more gently. You begin to hear your intuition more clearly. And you begin to understand that sometimes the universe answers in whispers, not words. So let silence do what explanation cannot. Let it cleanse, let it clarify, let it transform. Because those who truly value you will feel your silence like thunder. And those who don't will fade quietly into the distance, exactly where they belong. Silence doesn't mean the story is over. It means the story has shifted from seeking them to rediscovering you. And in that rediscovery, something sacred blooms. Peace. The kind of peace that doesn't depend on anyone's return. The kind of peace that comes from knowing that when you stop chasing, the right things begin to find you. That's the hidden language of silence. The sound of your soul finally resting in its own truth. For self-worth over approval. There comes a moment in every woman's journey when she realizes that approval is a fragile foundation. You can spend years trying to please, to be seen, to be chosen, but the truth is, no amount of external validation can fill the quiet ache of self-neglect. When you live for approval, you trade your authenticity for acceptance, you start performing instead of being, and the more you perform, the further you drift from the truth of who you are. But when you begin to value yourself, not for how others perceive you, but for the peace you carry within, everything begins to shift. You begin to see that approval is fleeting, it's conditional, it's selective, it's dependent on moods, expectations, and circumstances that are not yours to control. Yet, self-worth. Self-worth is unshakable. It's an inner knowing that whispers, even if no one claps for me, I'm still enough. It's in the quiet spaces, when no one is praising, when no one is watching, that your self-worth is tested and revealed. And often, the reason you've been overlooked or undervalued is not because you lack worth, but because you've been giving your energy to those who are blind to it. When you detach from needing their validation, you begin to walk differently. You no longer beg to be seen, you simply are. You begin to recognize that your value was never something others could give. It was something you had forgotten to claim. Approval seeking is like chasing the wind. It can never be held. But self-worth, that's a solid ground. It's what allows you to walk away without bitterness, to say no without guilt, and to love without losing yourself. There's a quiet beauty in no longer needing to be understood. You stop over-explaining your choices. You stop defending your peace. You start honoring yourself, not because someone else declared you worthy, but because you decided that you are. And when you reach that point, when your peace is no longer up for negotiation, you become unshakably attractive, because nothing radiates more than a woman who is comfortable in her own silence, who does not chase love, but simply embodies it. Approval fades, admiration changes, but self-worth endures. It doesn't depend on what's outside of you, it grows from within you. Every time you choose yourself, when it would be easier to please others. That is the shift from weakness to wisdom, from performing to presence, from fear to freedom. And once you taste that freedom, you will never again beg for the crumbs of validation when you know you carry the feast within your soul. 5. Emotional independence is magnetic. There's something deeply beautiful about a woman who no longer needs to be constantly reassured, constantly comforted, constantly told she's enough, not because she's cold or unfeeling, but because she has found her center. She has become her own sanctuary. Emotional independence isn't about closing off, it's about opening inward. It's the realization that peace cannot be borrowed from another human being. It must be cultivated within. When you understand this, your relationships change, your energy changes, your entire presence changes. You stop reacting to every shift in someone else's mood. You stop needing a message to feel valuable. You stop chasing consistency outside because you've built consistency inside. This kind of independence is magnetic, not because it's rebellious, but because it's grounded. People can feel when you are emotionally stable. They can sense it in your energy. It's the calm in your eyes, the slow rhythm of your voice, the ease in your movements. It's the unspoken signal that says, I am whole, whether you stay or go. Men are drawn to that energy, not because it challenges them, but because it centers them. A woman who has made peace with solitude is not waiting, she's cultivating, she's tending to her soul, her purpose, her growth. And that inner fullness radiates far beyond physical beauty. It's the kind of attraction that lingers. Emotional independence teaches you that love should be shared, not supplied. It's no one else's job to regulate your emotions. You become your own safe place, your own healer, your own anchor. And from that place of wholeness, love becomes something deeper. Because love born from independence is not a transaction, it's a choice. You're no longer saying, I need you to complete me. You're saying, I choose to walk beside you. And that choice carries weight. It carries authenticity. When you detach emotionally, you stop waiting for someone to make you happy. You realize happiness was never hiding in another person. It was hiding beneath your fear of being alone. So you face the silence. You sit with it. You breathe through it. And somewhere in that stillness, you discover peace, not because someone gave it to you, but because you allowed yourself to feel it. Independence doesn't mean isolation. It means no longer depending on another soul for your sense of identity. You can love deeply and still stand alone. You can care fully and still have boundaries. You can be soft and still be sovereign. This balance, this harmony between heart and strength is what makes a woman unforgettable. It's not what she says that captivates, it's what she doesn't need to say. It's the quiet knowing in her energy that she will never beg to be chosen, because she has already chosen herself. And that kind of emotional independence is what makes her magnetic. She doesn't pull people in by force, she draws them in by essence. Her calmness speaks louder than her beauty. Her silence speaks louder than her presence. Because in a world where everyone is screaming for attention, her peace becomes power. 6. The mystery man can't resist. Mystery is not about playing games, it's about depth. The kind that can't be captured in a few words or seen in a single glance. It's the presence of a woman who doesn't reveal everything, because she knows not everything needs to be explained. When you detach, you stop overexposing your heart to those who haven't earned the right to understand it. You become selective, not out of pride, but out of protection. You realize that mystery is not about secrecy, but about sacredness. There are parts of your spirit that deserve to be kept for those who truly see beyond the surface. The mystery men can't resist is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about being so grounded in who you are that others feel compelled to understand you, yet never fully can. Because your energy changes when you stop performing for attention. You stop needing to prove your value. You stop broadcasting your pain. You become quiet, composed, intentional. And that quietness, that depth, is powerful. It makes people pause. Because while the world shouts, you whisper. While others overshare, you withhold. You've mastered the art of keeping peace as your language and presence as your message. Mystery is not about what you hide, it's about what you embody. It's the gentle smile that doesn't explain itself. It's the steady gaze that says, I've seen storms you wouldn't survive. It's the silence that holds stories no one will ever fully know. When you detach, you stop trying to be understood by everyone. You start cherishing the beauty of being misunderstood by those who can't meet your depth. And strangely, that's what draws the right kind of people toward you. Because real connection happens when someone feels your energy before they even know your story. Mystery keeps love alive because it leaves space. Space for curiosity, space for wonder, space for discovery. When everything is given too soon, there's nothing left to explore. But when you hold parts of yourself sacred, you invite genuine pursuit, not shallow interest. Men are drawn to women who embody this kind of mystery because it awakens something ancient in them. The desire to seek, to learn, to protect. It's not about dominance or possession, it's about reverence. A mysterious woman doesn't demand attention. She earns it by being authentic and rare. She's the kind of presence that lingers, not because she's unattainable, but because she's unforgettable. Her words are measured, her emotions are calm. Her spirit is both gentle and fierce. You can't fully define her, and that's exactly what keeps her alive in your mind. Mystery is not emptiness, it's fullness contained. It's knowing that not every emotion must be shared, not every thought must be spoken, not every wound must be displayed. You learn that depth thrives in silence, that real intimacy grows not in exposure, but in respect. So you protect your energy, you protect your peace. You give pieces of yourself to those who can handle their weight, and in doing so, you become something sacred in a world obsessed with exposure. That is the mystery men can't resist. The woman who walks in light, but carries depth, who is soft yet sure, who is open yet untouchable. Because she has learned the truth. What makes you magnetic is not what you show, but what you choose to keep sacred. And that is the art of detachment. Not withdrawal from life, but engagement with yourself. Not the coldness of distance, but the warmth of self-respect. It's the balance between being known and being unknowable. It's what turns presence into power, silence into language, and detachment into the highest form of attraction. 7. The end of emotional bargaining. There comes a time when your soul gets tired, not from loving, but from constantly having to prove that your love is real. Tired of explaining your heart to those who only listen with their ego. Tired of lowering your standards so someone else can feel tall beside you. Tired of negotiating for the bare minimum when your spirit was built for depth. This exhaustion is sacred because it awakens you to truth. You begin to realize that love, when it turns into emotional bargaining, is no longer love. It's survival. And survival has no place in the garden of peace. You cannot beg someone to see you. You cannot teach them how to value what they've never learned to recognize. When you detach, you stop trying to convince the blind to see your light. You stop exchanging your serenity for their attention. You begin to understand that peace has a price, and that price is letting go of everything that makes you bargain for love. You are not a salesperson for your worth. You are not a negotiator of your own heart. You are a divine being who no longer confuses love with approval or pain with proof. The end of emotional bargaining is the beginning of emotional balance. It's when you no longer say, if I'm good enough, they'll stay. Instead, you whisper to yourself, if they're meant for me, I won't have to beg to be chosen. That shift is powerful. It's not pride, it's peace. Because peace is what remains when you stop performing. When you stop offering discounts on your soul just to feel valued. When you realize that those who truly see your worth will never ask you to shrink to be loved. There's something profoundly beautiful about that awareness. It's not loud, it's not bitter, it's calm. You simply stop fighting for what keeps hurting you. You stop explaining yourself to those who enjoy misunderstanding you. You stop arguing with people who have already decided not to listen. And in that quiet surrender, you begin to glow differently. You stop begging for love and start embodying it. You stop chasing peace and start becoming it. That's the end of emotional bargaining. When you realize that love isn't something you earn by suffering, it's something that flows when you've healed. 8. Stillness creates space for clarity. There's a silence that doesn't feel like absence. It feels like alignment. It's the kind of silence that hums softly in the heart, whispering truth through stillness. When you stop running, stop reacting, stop overanalyzing, the fog begins to clear. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about being everything you truly are, without trying to fix, force, or prove. It's the moment you stop grasping for control and start trusting that life is not punishing you. It's guiding you. In stillness, your soul finally catches up to your body. You start to hear the messages you missed when you were distracted by noise. The gentle nudge saying, "You deserve better." The whisper reminding you, "Peace is your natural state." The knowing that what you lost was not your destiny, but your lesson. Stillness brings clarity, but not instantly. At first, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like nothing is happening, when in truth, everything is unfolding beneath the surface. Your heart begins to untangle the stories you told yourself to survive. It begins to recognize that endings are not punishments, they are redirections. When you are still, you begin to see who is meant to walk with you and who was only meant to walk you to your next chapter. You begin to see the difference between attachment and connection, between love and dependency, between peace and distraction. Stillness teaches discernment. It shows you that not every movement forward is growth. Sometimes growth is standing still long enough to hear your intuition again. Sometimes clarity comes not when you add more, but when you release what's clouding your vision. When you stop trying to force answers, truth begins to flow in naturally. You realize that clarity doesn't scream, it whispers, and it always arrives after surrender. Stillness is the sacred pause between who you were and who you're becoming. It's that breath before transformation. That moment when you finally say, "I don't need to chase anymore. I just need to listen." And in that listening, you discover how much noise you had mistaken for love, how much chaos you had called passion, how many people you held onto simply because you were afraid of what silence might reveal. But once you embrace stillness, you no longer fear it. You start to crave it. You start to honor your peace as the highest form of wisdom. And from that place, you see the truth of everything. Who values you, who drains you, who aligns with your soul. Stillness gives you eyes to see and the strength to choose. It becomes your compass, quiet, unwavering, deeply connected to your inner truth. And once you've tasted the clarity born from stillness, you will never again confuse noise with connection. 9. The shift from needing to choosing. When you no longer need, you finally begin to choose. That is one of the deepest transformations the soul can experience. For so long, many live in the illusion of need. I need their love, I need their presence, I need their approval. But what you truly needed all along was your own alignment, your own peace, your own permission to stop settling. Need is rooted in fear. Fear of being alone, fear of not being enough, fear of losing something before you've even found yourself. But choosing comes from power. It says, I no longer grasp for what drains me. I create space for what aligns with me. The moment you shift from needing to choosing, your relationships transform. You no longer attract from desperation. You attract from wholeness. Stop clinging to people who treat your presence as convenience. You stop romanticizing inconsistency. You begin to walk in alignment with what reflects your growth. When you choose, you operate from fullness. You're not seeking someone to complete you, you're inviting someone to complement you. You're not looking for validation, you're sharing vibration. You move differently because your love no longer comes with conditions, it comes with consciousness. And this shift is where peace begins to blossom. Because need says, I can't live without you. Choice says, I can live without you, but I'd love to walk beside you. One drains, the other empowers. Needing keeps you small, anxious, and reactive. Choosing expands you. It opens your heart while keeping your boundaries intact. When you choose from peace, not fear, you no longer tolerate confusion disguised as love. You no longer feel obligated to fix what's broken in others. You begin to choose yourself. And from that self-respect, your entire reality changes. It takes courage to move from needing to choosing, because it means stepping into uncertainty. It means trusting that even without them, you will still be whole. It means releasing control and allowing love to flow naturally instead of forcing it to stay. But the beauty of this shift is profound. You stop saying, "I need them to love me," and begin saying, "I choose love," whether it comes from them or within. And that choice transforms every interaction, every connection, every part of your being. When you choose, you no longer chase, you no longer perform, you simply align. You meet people from a place of balance, not brokenness. And because of that, what you attract begins to match your peace instead of your pain. This is the essence of detachment. Not coldness, not withdrawal, but clarity. It's understanding that your happiness was never meant to be held in someone else's hands. That you are not waiting to be saved, you are remembering you were never lost. The shift from needing to choosing is the rebirth of your spirit. It's the end of dependency and the beginning of destiny. You stop living for the validation of others and start living in the vibration of truth. Because the truth is, love flows best when it's free. And you can only experience real love when you are no longer enslaved by need. When you can look at someone and say, "I want you, but I don't need you to define my peace." That's when your energy becomes untouchable. That's when you move from attachment to alignment. And once you reach that state of being, you will never again settle for half-hearted love or temporary comfort. You'll recognize that everything you ever needed was never outside of you. It was the strength within you to choose what honors your soul. 10. The power of allowing instead of forcing. There is a sacred difference between allowing and forcing. One is born from trust, the other from fear. One flows like a river, soft, effortless, guided by unseen hands. The other crashes against everything in its path, trying to bend life into its own will. For so long, many of us believed that strength meant control, that to make things happen, we must hold on tighter, speak louder, push harder. But the truth is far gentler. True power is not found in how hard you grip, but in how deeply you trust. Allowing is not passivity, it's wisdom. It's the quiet understanding that everything unfolds as it should, not always as we want, but always as we need. It's realizing that your path doesn't need to be chased, it only needs to be walked with awareness. When you begin to allow, life starts to move differently. The people meant for you stay with ease. Opportunities align without strain. Energy flows instead of drains. Because forcing blocks the current, but allowing lets grace do its quiet work. You cannot force timing. You cannot rush divine alignment. You cannot push open doors that are meant to open with ease. When you force, you're telling life you don't trust it. But when you allow, you're saying, "I believe in the rhythm of what's meant for me." That belief changes everything. It removes the heaviness of control and replaces it with the peace of surrender. Surrender not in defeat, but in divine cooperation. You begin to see that life is not happening to you, but through you. Sometimes the reason things don't move forward is because they're not meant to. Not yet. The pause isn't punishment. It's preparation. When you allow, you stop fighting the seasons of your soul. You learn to bloom when it's time, rest when it's needed, and release when it's over. There's beauty in this balance, the kind that can't be taught, only experienced. Because allowing is an act of faith. It's saying, even when I don't understand, I will not resist what's meant to leave, nor chase what's meant to arrive naturally. And strangely, that's when you begin to receive more, because what is meant for you doesn't require exhaustion. It meets you where you are when you've stopped pretending to know better than life itself. Allowing is the art of partnership with the universe. It's learning to trust your timing, your unfolding, your journey, not because it's always easy, but because it's always yours. 11. When you no longer seek closure, you find peace. There comes a moment when you stop needing explanations, when the endless search for why no longer feeds your spirit, when you realize that closure doesn't always come in words, or apologies, or neat endings. Closure often arrives in silence. In the moment you stop waiting for someone to make sense of what broke you, it arrives when you stop chasing answers from those who were never ready to give truth, because sometimes their silence was your answer. Seeking closure keeps you tied to the past. It keeps you replaying the same wound, hoping the story will change this time. But peace comes when you understand that closure is not given, it's chosen. When you stop chasing closure, you start creating healing. You begin to understand that people act from their own wounds, and not every hurt will come with an explanation that satisfies your heart. And that's okay. Because peace is not about understanding everything. It's about no longer needing to. There is liberation in letting go without clarity, in saying, I may never know why, but I choose to be free anyway. That's when the energy shifts. You reclaim what was lost in waiting. Your power, your time, your stillness. Sometimes, closure is not a conversation. It's a decision. A decision to stop opening the door to old pain. A decision to stop making sense of what was never meant to make sense. A decision to trust that the lesson has already done its work, even if the story ended without resolution. When you release the need for closure, you also release the need for control. You stop holding life hostage to explanations. You stop postponing your peace until someone else behaves differently. You begin to realize that your peace is not in their hands. It never was. And from that realization comes the deepest healing. The understanding that your freedom is not dependent on anyone's apology. Forgiveness, then, becomes an internal act, not a relational one. You forgive because your soul deserves the quiet, not because they deserve your grace. And in that moment, the loop of pain dissolves. The cycle of remembering shifts from bitterness to wisdom. You learn to thank the unanswered questions for teaching you acceptance. You learn to love yourself enough to walk away from the table where closure is never served. And as you do, your peace returns, not as a sudden revelation, but as a slow, steady calm that settles into your bones. That is when you finally understand. Closure isn't something you find at the end of a story. It's something you create when you decide to stop rereading the same chapter. 12. Becoming whole without needing to be understood. There is a quiet strength that emerges when you no longer need to be understood. It's a kind of wholeness that cannot be shaken by misunderstanding or judgment. Because once you stop explaining yourself to everyone, you begin to belong fully to yourself. For much of life, we seek to be seen. We shape our truth to fit the comfort of others, soften our boundaries so they'll stay close, and dim our light so we don't intimidate their shadows. But somewhere along the way you realize, to be fully understood by everyone is to lose pieces of yourself in every direction. True wholeness begins when you stop negotiating your essence for acceptance, when you stop saying, please see me, and start whispering, I see myself. Being misunderstood is no longer painful when you no longer need validation. It simply becomes evidence that your spirit speaks a language everyone is ready to hear. And that's all right, because you're not here to be universally understood. You're here to be authentically you. When you are whole, you stop explaining your peace to those who thrive on chaos. You stop proving your worth to those who measure everything by noise. You stop over-explaining your intentions just to be believed. Instead, you begin to live in quiet alignment. You begin to recognize that your energy explains more than your words ever could. Your peace becomes your statement. Your boundaries become your clarity. Your silence becomes your power. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means integration. It means accepting every version of yourself. The parts that heal beautifully and the parts still learning to. It's realizing that you are not broken. You are becoming. And once you stop needing to be understood, you start to breathe differently. You start to walk through life not as someone seeking approval, but as someone radiating calm certainty. You no longer fear being misunderstood because your peace is no longer fragile. It's rooted. Wholeness is not about how others see you. It's about how deeply you know yourself. It's choosing to honor your truth, even when it's inconvenient. It's walking away from conversations that twist your words. It's smiling gently when someone misinterprets you, not because you're arrogant, but because you're free. When you become whole, you stop needing closure, validation, and control. Because you've already found everything within: your joy, your stillness, your belonging. It's all self-sourced. And from that fullness, you no longer chase connections, you attract them. The ones meant for your frequency will recognize you. Not because you explained yourself perfectly, but because your presence feels like home to their soul. That's the power of being whole. You draw what mirrors your peace, not what matches your wounds. And as life unfolds, you realize that the goal was never to be understood by everyone. It was to understand yourself deeply enough that misunderstanding no longer shakes your spirit. The flow between them, to allow instead of force, is to trust life. To release the need for closure is to trust time. To become whole without needing to be understood is to trust yourself. Each one is a deepening, a descent from control into surrender, from chaos into peace, from approval into authenticity. When you allow, you open the door to flow. When you stop seeking closure, you invite healing. When you become whole, you invite harmony. These are not separate lessons, but one continuous awakening. A journey from resistance to acceptance, from fear to love, from fragmentation to unity. You realize you don't need to chase what's meant for you. You don't need to explain what's already true within you. And you don't need to force life to love you, because love has always been guiding you toward yourself. And in that stillness, in that surrender, in that wholeness, you finally arrive home. 13. Men respect boundaries. They can feel respect is not demanded, it is evoked, and the kind of respect that endures, the one that is born not from fear but from reverence, cannot be spoken into existence. It must be felt. When you carry yourself with quiet certainty, when you walk into a room already knowing what you will and will not tolerate, something shifts in the air around you. People sense it, though you've said nothing. Boundaries are not walls, they are doors. They define the sacred space between what is welcome and what is not. They tell the world, here is where my peace begins, and here is where your chaos ends. Men respect boundaries, not because they fear punishment, but because they sense strength. They can feel when a woman's energy is grounded in self-worth. It's in the tone of her silence. It's in the grace with which she says no, without apology, without hesitation. You see, boundaries are not always visible, but they are deeply felt. A woman who honors herself vibrates on a frequency that cannot be faked. Her time, her attention, her affection, none of it is given lightly. And when she draws a line, it's not to push people away, but to keep herself intact. Boundaries are love in structure. They are the language of self-respect. They say, I care about my peace too much to let it be disturbed by confusion. They are not about controlling others, but about mastering oneself. Many confuse boundaries with coldness, but they are not born from distance, they are born from clarity. They are what happens when a woman has walked through the fire of giving too much, of explaining too often, of forgiving too easily, and has finally learned that love without limits is not love at all. When you no longer chase, when you no longer overextend, when you no longer beg to be seen, you begin to radiate a different energy. That energy teaches people how to treat you without you ever having to teach them. And that's the beauty of silent strength. It does not shout, it simply exists. It cannot be manipulated because it is rooted in awareness. It cannot be tested because it's not reactive. Men sense this stillness. It disarms them, it intrigues them, it draws from them the best version of who they can be. Boundaries become sacred lines of energy, felt more than spoken. And when you learn to stand in your own energy like this, you stop asking for respect. You embody it. 14. When detachment becomes spiritual strength, there is a point in life when detachment is no longer a defense mechanism. It becomes a deep spiritual strength. It is no longer about protecting yourself from pain, but about preserving your peace. You stop detaching out of fear and begin detaching out of faith. Detachment in its purest form is not indifference. It is intimacy with the truth. It is knowing that nothing truly yours can ever be taken, and nothing taken was ever truly yours. It's a serene kind of courage, the kind that doesn't need to control outcomes, because it trusts that what belongs to you will always find you. When detachment matures into wisdom, you stop gripping life with trembling hands. You let it flow, you let it breathe, you allow its tides to come and go without clinging to every wave. You begin to understand that everything and everyone has their divine timing, that sometimes what leaves is simply making space for what's meant to arrive. And so, instead of chasing, you align. Instead of forcing, you allow. Spiritual detachment is the art of remaining centered while the world shifts around you. It's walking through chaos without absorbing it. It's hearing noise, but responding only to truth. It's choosing to stay still in a storm, because you trust that your anchor is internal, not external. When you master detachment, you stop reacting to everything that tries to pull you out of yourself. You no longer respond to provocation, guilt, or pressure. You move from impulse to intention, from chaos to clarity, and this is where your spiritual power expands. Because detachment frees you from the illusion of control. It teaches you that peace is not found in the absence of storms, but in the presence of stillness. Many fear detachment because they mistake it for not caring. But detachment is the highest form of care. It means you love without ownership, you give without depletion, and you exist without expectation. It's the recognition that love cannot thrive in fear, that connection cannot grow from control, that peace cannot coexist with attachment to outcomes. It's knowing that life flows better when you stop trying to hold it in your hands and start trusting it with your heart. True detachment doesn't make you distant, it makes you divine. Because when you let go, you make room for miracles. When you stop grasping, you start receiving. And when you stop clinging to what's leaving, you finally make space for what's meant to stay. That's the paradox. The moment you stop needing everything to work your way, it begins to work in your favor. You stop fighting life and start dancing with it. And that dance, graceful, calm, and surrendered, is the rhythm of true spiritual strength. 15. The art of non-reaction there is a sacred silence that exists between stimulus and response. In that space lies your freedom, your power, and your peace. Non-reaction is not weakness, it is mastery. To react is human, but to pause is divine. When you stop allowing every disturbance to dictate your peace, you rise above the noise of the world. You begin to see that not everything deserves your energy. Not every comment deserves your answer. Not every challenge deserves your fire. Non-reaction is the art of keeping your inner world undisturbed by outer chaos. It's the strength to sit with discomfort without needing to fix it instantly. It's the patience to observe before responding. It's the maturity to realize that sometimes silence is the loudest answer. We live in a world that provokes constantly. People test boundaries, situations ignite ego, emotions flare. But you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to prove your calmness through words. Peace proves itself through your stillness. When you choose non-reaction, you stop feeding the cycles that drain you. You begin to see manipulation for what it is, an invitation to chaos, and you decline the invitation gracefully. There is a soft kind of power in walking away without explanation, in smiling when provoked, in saying nothing where once you would have screamed, because silence confuses control. Stillness disarms chaos. And when you stay centered, no one can move you like they used to. This doesn't mean you suppress emotion. It means you transmute it. You feel deeply, but you respond wisely. You learn that peace doesn't mean numbness, it means presence. The art of non-reaction is not about becoming cold, it's about becoming conscious. It's realizing that your emotions are waves, not commands. You can watch them rise, observe them fall, without letting them drown you. Every time you choose silence over argument, presence over panic, grace over reaction, you grow in unseen ways. Your energy sharpens, your mind clears, your spirit deepens. You begin to embody serenity, not as performance, but as truth. And men, people in general, sense this. They feel the calm, the certainty, the lack of desperation in your energy. It's alluring because it's rare. In a world that's constantly reacting, your stillness becomes magnetic. You no longer mirror chaos, you absorb it and dissolve it. You no longer fight the fire, you become the calm that extinguishes it. And that calm, that silence, that pause becomes your greatest form of power. The flow between them, boundaries, detachment, and non-reaction. 3 rivers leading to the same ocean. When you set boundaries, you define where your peace begins. When you detach, you stop tying your peace to external outcomes. When you master non-reaction, you protect that peace from being disturbed. Each one deepens the other. Boundaries without detachment become rigid. Detachment without boundaries becomes escapism. Non-reaction without either becomes repression. But together, they form harmony. They create a woman who knows her worth so deeply that nothing external defines her. She loves, but doesn't lose herself. She gives, but never overextends. She speaks, but knows when silence is stronger. This kind of woman doesn't beg for respect. She embodies it. She doesn't seek validation. She radiates confidence. She doesn't fear misunderstanding. She trusts her clarity. And when she moves through the world like this, she doesn't chase love. She becomes love. Not the fragile kind that demands constant proof, but the grounded kind that invites connection from strength, not need. The deeper she grows in the stillness, the more she understands. Peace is the ultimate form of power. And the moment she stops reacting to what's unworthy of her attention, everything that is worthy begins to align effortlessly. 16. The courage to be misunderstood. There will come a point in your life when you will realize that the fear of being misunderstood has been one of your greatest prisons. For so long, you may have shaped yourself to fit expectations, trimming your edges, softening your voice, concealing your truth, just to avoid being labeled as too much, too quiet, or too different. But the path of authenticity will always lead you into the wilderness of misunderstanding. It's there, in that vast and quiet wilderness, that you begin to meet the rawest version of yourself. To be misunderstood is not to be wrong. It is to be living in a frequency others have not yet tuned their hearts to hear. When your truth vibrates at a different rhythm, not everyone will dance to it, and that's okay. The courage to stand firm in your truth even when others misread your intentions is a sacred kind of bravery. It's a love letter to your soul, saying, I choose you even if the world doesn't. There's a certain peace that settles in. Once you stop defending yourself to those who are determined not to understand you, you begin to see that their perception of you is not a mirror, but a projection. People can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves. Their misunderstanding is not your failure. It's a reflection of where they are in their own journey. But oh, how tempting it is to explain, to clarify, to soften your truth just to be seen more clearly. Yet every time you dilute yourself for the comfort of others, you abandon the very essence that makes you whole. Silence, sometimes, is your greatest act of wisdom. To say nothing is not to surrender. It is to honor your energy, to preserve your peace, to remind yourself that your worth is not up for debate. The courage to be misunderstood means learning to hold steady when people twist your silence into arrogance, your boundaries into cruelty, your detachment into pride. It's understanding that peace does not always look like agreement. Sometimes peace is the quiet strength of walking away without resentment. It's the whisper within that says, I don't need you to understand me to know that I'm standing in truth. And the beautiful paradox is this: once you stop seeking validation, those who are meant for you will find their way. Not because you convinced them, but because your energy spoke louder than your words. The right souls will not need you to explain yourself. They will simply recognize you. Like two rivers meeting, they'll flow with you without resistance, without confusion, without the need to justify why it feels right. So if the world misunderstands you, smile softly. It means you've stopped performing and started living. You've stopped chasing approval and started embodying truth. And in that quiet courage, you find freedom. Not the freedom of being liked, but the freedom of being real. 17. The art of emotional detachment. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the art of loving without losing yourself, of caring deeply without being consumed. Too often, we confuse attachment with connection, believing that to love means to cling, to worry, to control. But love, in its purest form, is not possession, it is presence. It is to stand beside someone, not to hold them hostage in your heart. To master emotional detachment is to understand the ebb and flow of all things, that everything you hold dear is just passing through your life for a season, a reason, or a lesson. When you begin to love people as they are, without trying to anchor them in your expectations, you enter the serene rhythm of acceptance. You stop fighting what must end. You stop grasping for what cannot stay. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop suffering through what you cannot control. It's the strength to feel everything, but not let anything destroy your peace. It's the grace to cry when something hurts, and still smile because you understand that even pain has a purpose. You see, attachment makes you beg for permanence in a world that's always changing. It makes you cling to what's already fading. But detachment, true spiritual detachment, teaches you that love is not about possession. It's about appreciation. You learn to say, I am grateful you are part of my path, even if you cannot walk it forever. There's power in watching something beautiful end and still choosing gratitude instead of grief. Because endings are not failures. They are transitions. They are the universe's way of clearing the path for something new. When you learn to release, you make room for renewal. When you stop clinging, you begin to receive. And so, emotional detachment becomes a spiritual discipline, a meditation on impermanence. You stop defining your peace by what stays, and instead find peace in knowing that you can survive what leaves. You learn to hold lightly, to hold people, dreams, and moments in open palms, not clenched fists. There is no greater strength than to love fully and still let go gracefully. Detachment does not kill love. It refines it. It turns love from hunger into harmony, from need into understanding. You begin to love not because you lack, but because you overflow. And one day, you'll realize that what you thought was detachment was actually divine alignment. Your soul learning that everything meant for you will never require you to lose yourself. 18. The stillness beyond control. There is a moment, quiet, almost imperceptible, when you realize that control is an illusion. For years you've tried to shape outcomes, manage emotions, predict the future, hold the pieces together with trembling hands, but life has its own rhythm. It unfolds not according to your plans, but according to its wisdom. To live in stillness beyond control is to surrender not in defeat, but in trust. It is to release the desperate need to understand why and when and how, and simply rest in the knowing that everything moves in divine timing. Control is heavy, surrender is light. Control is rooted in fear, surrender is rooted in faith. When you stop controlling, you start flowing. You stop forcing and begin allowing. You stop pushing and start receiving. This is not passivity, it's participation with life in its truest form. You realize that what is meant for you does not need to be chased, because it is already moving toward you. Stillness does not mean stagnation, it means alignment. The ability to stand calmly even while the storm rages, is to trust that the river knows where it's going, even when the current feels strong. It's to understand that your task is not to control the flow, but to keep your heart steady as it carries you forward. There's a deep beauty in realizing that uncertainty is not your enemy, it's your teacher. It's the space where growth breathes and possibilities are born. The need for control comes from fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of pain. But the stillness beyond control whispers, you are safe, even when things are uncertain. Because true peace is not found when everything is certain. It is found when you are no longer disturbed by uncertainty. When you release control, you begin to see miracles where you once saw chaos. The unanswered prayers, the delayed plans, the unexpected turns, all start to make sense. You begin to feel guided, not lost. Protected, not punished. You start to see that life was never happening to you, but for you. The stillness beyond control invites you to stop fighting and start listening. To pause between the noise of your plans and hear the soft rhythm of your purpose. To breathe and remember that the universe is not in a hurry, and neither are you. And in that stillness you discover something profound. That peace was never something you had to create. It was always there, underneath the chaos, waiting for you to stop grasping long enough to feel it. So you sit quietly, you breathe deeply. You let the river of life carry you where it must. And for the first time you understand, surrender is not giving up, it is giving in to the wisdom of life itself. And in that surrender, you find serenity, you find strength, you find yourself. And so, as we come to the quiet end of this journey, everything begins to make sense. Not through logic, but through the heart's gentle understanding. The pieces that once felt scattered now feel like fragments of a larger truth. That every wound was a teacher, every delay a redirection, every loss a sacred preparation. Life was never about controlling, convincing, or clinging. It was always about awakening. To awaken is to finally see that peace was not waiting at the end of your struggle. It was hidden beneath it all along. It was in the pauses between heartbreaks, in the silence after disappointment, in the courage it took to keep breathing when everything inside you wanted to stop. You were never lost. You were only being refined, carved into clarity through confusion, strengthened through solitude, made softer through surrender. The courage to be misunderstood taught you authenticity. The art of emotional detachment taught you freedom. And the stillness beyond control revealed your faith. When you let go of needing to be understood, loved, or accepted by all, you create space for the truth to settle in your bones. You begin to understand that peace is not a destination. It is a posture. It is standing in the middle of life's storms with an unshakable trust that what is meant for you will find its way, and what isn't will fall away without destroying you. So now walk gently, speak slowly, listen deeply, love without clinging, give without expectation, release without resentment. Let life flow through you like wind through open hands. And when uncertainty visits again, as it surely will, remember this: you don't need to have all the answers to live beautifully. You only need to stay awake, stay grateful, and stay true, because the peace you've been searching for is not out there somewhere. It is within you, quiet and eternal, waiting for your surrender, waiting for your stillness, waiting for your return home to yourself.